In Episode 1, what is a virtual reality game? It must be realistic and give a real-life feeling to be truly amazing. And yes, this is such a game. There are 7 races to choose from: elf, beast, war, flot, human, PC, dragon, and it is still a game that you can play with teammates to fight monsters. But in this game, you can also get rich by trading. In general, in this place, there are various occupations, and it fulfills all of one's imagination. Like the game The New Gate, which has become a death game. In short, people who die in this game also die in real life. Another thing is that it's impossible to escape. Once you're in, you're stuck. Now, the game world is a one-life world. There's a lot of rumors going around about people trying to save girls to show off, and some are good at killing monsters. They even have friends who are quite impressive. But this young man is determined to go on an adventure to find the final boss, to train his muscles. However, even with one goal in mind, they can't defeat the final boss. But still, he persists in fighting, not giving the boss a chance to recover. So, the young man conjured a 30-centimeter long sword. Oops, I meant 2 meters, and with one slash to the head, the boss was defeated. It turns out that this guy defeated the final boss so that everyone could escape, but somehow he was the only one left. Everyone else could log out except him, and he remained stuck in the game until he opened his eyes. Arriving in an unfamiliar place, of course, he was still in the game, just in a different area. However, it felt quite real here, and he could perceive it with all his senses. The young man was amazed at how far virtual reality technology had advanced. Even so, there was still an activity status notification, and he could still see his stats, which had increased significantly. He thought he could log out and return to the real world, but unfortunately, there was no logout option. Moreover, there was a notification about a network connection failure. The young man realized that this was the real world, and thus, he had embarked on a journey to another world. With high stats right from the start, he decided to find his way back to his in-game home. However, he encountered a wall that had been built at some point, and before him was a city that had also appeared. Eventually, he made his way back to his house, only to find some troublemakers in front of it. A girl was being harassed by some guys, but before they could go far, a wild boar monster appeared and attacked the girl. Paralyzed by fear, she couldn't move. Just when it seemed like it was over for her, the young man heroically saved her life. He now understood the reality of the situation, especially feeling the physical feedback from his actions. Afterward, he spoke with the girl with a big heart, who introduced herself as Cardi B. So, this guy Jin claimed to be an acquaintance of Master, but when the girl mentioned Master, Jin had no clue who she was talking about. The girl then clarified, saying that the person she was talking about was someone named Sneh, a representative of the Moon Temple. Hearing this name, Jin was shocked, because this girl was one of the characters who had supported him before. Seeing that the girl was a bit scared, Jin tried to calm her down by saying that her Master was an old acquaintance of his, and he just wanted to know where Sneh was. However, T-Ra didn't want to reveal Master's location to anyone, thinking Jin might be like those other people aiming for her Master. Nevertheless, she mentioned that if Jin had any business, he could relay it through her since she was there to look after the shop and pass on messages to Master. But sending a message would cost a whopping 1,000 du, this world's currency. The girl even noticed that Jin had just pulled something out of the item box, which only the king and elders of certain tribes could use. She saw the golden coin and realized it was a rare item. At the current exchange rate, 10 billion du for one of those, but Jin was still confused as one piece was only worth 5 million. In Death Game, J is the lowest denomination currency, so when T heard that Jin only had J, she grew even more suspicious of his identity. Jin quickly explained that he was an adventurer of the high human race. Hearing human left he quite surprised, because that race had supposedly been extinct for a long time. This revelation also left Jin shocked, as he had no idea what was going on. Apparently, only the high-class human race had been wiped out, and history records only mentioned 6 high-class individuals who existed around 500 years ago, right after the Twilight of Glory event. And that was one of the major events that still had an impact even today, which is now 500 years later in the game world. Because of all this information, Jin decided to bribe T-Ra with a Ryu coin, a pretty rare item. Basically, he wanted to butter her up for more info in the future. T-Ra thought Jin was just a small-time guy, yet he handed over something so precious. She was initially going to refuse, but nope, she was secretly thrilled. After all, it's a valuable item in the current game economy where people are short on cash. So Jin thought he had pulled a smooth move, while T-Ra was over the moon about getting her hands on such a rare treasure. Everyone's trying to make a buck in this crazy game world. But our young lad, Jin, who was smitten with big-heartedness chess, decided to change the topic and started talking about T-Ra's race. Turns out, she was an elf. Jin had seen her true form, which was surprising because her master had used illusion magic to change her appearance. Despite the illusion, Xin could still see her real self. The reason she wanted to change her appearance was that, in the current world, elves with black hair were considered a bad omen. Her hair was believed to bring disaster, which is why she had been kicked out of her village after a monster attack. So, while Xin was trying to keep things light and not dwell on heavy topics, he stumbled upon a whole backstory. Poor T-Ra. T-Ra's master had rescued her and brought her to this place, setting up a barrier to protect her because of a curse. The curse was a random affliction, but there was a way to lift it. Xin decided to purify her right then and there. The purification worked, but only part of her hair returned to its original color. So now, T-Ra had a cool two-tone hairstyle. She was overjoyed to be partially freed from the curse, a curse she had endured for 100 years. Xin then suggested she step out of the barrier to see if the curse was truly gone. T-Ra was still hesitant, so Xin reassured her, saying, "Don't worry, if I can take down the final boss, a few monsters are no big deal." With some encouragement, T-Ra finally stepped outside and, luckily, no monsters appeared. For the first time in centuries, she saw the outside world, and tears of joy streamed down her face. Since her master hadn't returned yet, Xin decided to explore the nearby towns to learn more about this world. The adventure was just beginning. It seemed like Xin could sense that other supportive characters from his past were also present in this world. T-Ra handed Xin something, knowing he might head to the kingdom of Barris. It was a letter of introduction, which would let him skip the long lines to enter the kingdom. Even though this was a great help, T-Ra felt it was still not enough to repay Xin for saving her life. So, our hero set off on his adventure. Luckily, with the letter, he could bypass the long queues, which was a relief. This letter wasn't just any piece of paper, it had a lot of clout, even granting him the privilege of an audience with the king, quite impressive for just a piece of paper. But Xin, ever the practical adventurer, wanted to head to the Adventurers Guild first. It's the best place to gather information quickly. However, even at the guild, things didn't go smoothly. He found out that even for registration, he'd have to wait until the next day for approval. While waiting, Xin started noticing the people around him, many armed only with bronze or iron weapons. It seemed like this world had a long way to go in terms of gear and resources. Afterward, Soa, who had taken up a part-time job as a waitress, served Xin. She wasn't there just to watch him eat. She wanted to verify something. It turned out she was curious about the letter of introduction from the Moon Temple, so she invited him to a private room to check if it was genuine. Xin was a bit wary. Why did they need to go to a private room for this? Was there some ulterior motive? He definitely didn't want to be alone in a room with another guy.
To his surprise, the head of the Adventurers Guild was behind him the whole time. Xin realized this was the eccentric guy he saw at the reception desk earlier. They ended up having a private meeting, where the guildmaster didn't beat around the bush and immediately asked to see the letter. The way they verified its authenticity was quite unique, by placing two letters close together. If they were genuine, they would glow. It was quite the strange and magical way to check documents, but it worked. The guildmaster then asked who had given Xin the letter of introduction. It turned out that T-Ra had forgotten to mention the letter's full capabilities. This special document had quite the perks, allowing entry into most countries without inspection, and in some places, even granting an audience with the king, like a VIP pass. But for now, Xin was allowed to go rest. The next day, Xin returned to the Adventurers Guild to collect his guild card. The guild had 9 ranks, from S to G, with points awarded for completing missions, allowing adventurers to level up. They could also take on tasks up to 2 ranks higher than their current level. Eager to get started, Xin picked a mission that caught his eye: gathering herbs. This task was in high demand for potion making and had no time limit. Thinking it would be an easy job, Xin quickly set out. However, what seemed like a simple task turned out to be surprisingly tricky. Peering from a hidden spot, Xin discovered it was a skullface, a fairly powerful monster. Remembering the rumors he'd heard in the tavern, Xin felt it was time to play hero and bring justice to the land. He charged in, using whatever low-level gear he had. The battle wasn't easy. This undead monster was no pushover. To make things even weirder, despite being an undead creature, the skullface wielded a weapon with a light attribute. This was definitely not normal, like the game was throwing in a cheat code. Xin quickly realized that this was no ordinary monster. It was a special one. But with his flimsy weapon, he was barely scratching the surface. His weapon was on the verge of breaking, so he decided to unleash his full power, a move that even made the monster shiver. With a single, powerful punch, he shattered the monster's core, defeating it swiftly. He wanted to take the monster's sword as a trophy, but it vanished into thin air. However, the monster did drop a precious gem. Xin was thrilled. In the next episode of this wild adventure, the sword Xin flung during his monster battle ended up clattering into the princess's room. This unexpected intrusion caused a huge stir among the knights, who were suddenly on high alert. So they called in experts to examine the sword and find out who threw it into the princess's room. The princess herself was quite astute, recognizing that the person behind this must be powerful. Knowing that her friend was seeking someone strong,